Welcome, everyone. I'm Kimberly Bushman, and this is the Intentionally Intuitive podcast. In this episode, we're going to take a look at the individual life path forecast for the new moon solar eclipse that's happening on October 14th or 15th, depending on where you live within the world. So we have officially entered eclipse season. So this is big energy. And now with these eclipses, we have an eclipse on the 14th, 15th, obviously, the new moon solar eclipse that we'll be talking about today. And then at the end of the month, I believe on the 29th, we have a lunar eclipse. So we'll talk about that as it gets closer. But these eclipses are big energy. And so this new moon eclipse could be bringing in a new storyline that we'll be working with for the next 6 months, next year, or for the next 18 months. And the eclipse at the end of the month, which we'll go into more detail about as it gets closer, has a likelihood to potentially close something out, close out a cycle we've been moving through for the last 6 months or a year or 18 months. And so you'll know as it pertains to your own storyline, sort of how it's affecting you, how it's coming in. But this new moon solar eclipse, again, has the potential to sort of unfold over the next 6 months or up to a year, potentially. And so pay attention to what comes in for you. Now, you may not see it come to full fruition or hit you like a lightning bolt on the day of. However, you can kind of come back to this reading potentially and see it as what was initiated, what was something that came in sort of as an understanding that, okay, this is the storyline. This is the seed that the story is going to be planted around. Because you'll have some kind of indication. It's very likely that you'll have some kind of indication as far as what this storyline is going to be about. So again, it's going to be an unfolding. So be patient with yourself as you move through it. Be open to what and who comes in for you over the coming months, because it's all going to be relevant and it's all going to play into a bigger storyline. So without further ado, let's take a look. Life Path 6. So this eclipse is bringing in some pretty interesting energies for you all. So you've got the energy of the 1 and the 2 that you're working with. And then your animal power message or wisdom message is coming from wolf energy. So there's definitely a theme here around this eclipse that is bringing into focus me versus we. Well, I don't want to say versus, but like to take a closer look at self and others, right? And so I do think that there's going to be an emphasis on like you asserting yourself, you, again, standing in your power, you feeling very autonomous, very strong, right? But there's also this very strong emphasis on collaboration, community, working together with others, finding your soul tribe, so to speak. Finding those people who really you connect with at a deeper soul level, who become part of a greater community for you. That's definitely a very strong emphasis there. The other side of that is to like work with people in a way that allows you to lean on others and others to lean on you, right? It becomes almost like this like form of synergy, right? Where it's like or almost like alchemy, right? Where you're like merging because you're available for those people, they're available for you. And it just becomes like this very like fluid, organic kind of movement where it just seems very natural, right? And so there's a very strong possibility that the people who need to enter in this period of time will present themselves to you. Your job is to not try to be the martyr and say, I can do it all myself. Thanks, but no thanks. I do really think that this is a period where you are going to be able to, if you allow yourself to feel more supported, to feel like you can lean on other people, that you can collaborate with others, that they, again, it's sort of like finding, well, we're talking about wolf energy too, right? Finding your pack. The whole lone wolf thing is a myth. The wolves would not survive if they were lone wolves for very long in the wild. There's definitely a community there, and like, they have to work together in order to survive type thing. So there's definitely something coming in around this eclipse that's saying, where is it that you potentially give so much of yourself that you lose yourself in relationships, right? Or that you do so much for others that there's no clear distinction of where you end and another person begins. And so this eclipse is saying we need to eclipse out those unhealthy behaviors that are leaving you feeling depleted or leaving you feeling like you don't have anybody that you can rely on or lean on or collaborate with or work with, right? Because we are not meant to be an island. We are meant to, have that sense of community and work with others so that we can do great things in this world with great people, right? And we can't do the same things that alone that we could do with others. And so I do think there's going to be a strong emphasis on that. But I also think there's going to be a strong emphasis on, again, like you not losing sight of yourself, that you're not self-sacrificing, that pieces of you aren't falling away to make sure that somebody else feels whole. You see what I'm saying? Definitely a lot coming in with that. And so like with wolves, it's like, it's almost like each wolf knows their place within the pack and their job to do, right? Like, and what they bring to the table, their contribution. And so I think the same is going to be said about this next six months to a year. This journey for you is figuring out, okay, where am I losing myself in other people or in relationships that I need to call myself back, right? Like I need to come back to myself, and then decide how I want to show up after that. And then also, where is it that I isolate myself and, say no to connections or collaborations because of fear of getting hurt or just because it doesn't feel like it's worth the investment, whatever the case may be. Or you don't want to get taken advantage of, or et cetera, et cetera. But again, that's losing sight of the fact that you can't be taken advantage of if you say no to being taken advantage of, right? Like if you don't show up, if you don't participate in that way. And so I do think that this is going to potentially be a period where you're really able to not only step into your own empowerment, or more so into your own empowerment, but also show up to connections in a very empowered way and open to what those connections can show you or do for you, and provide for you. So this is definitely potentially a period of, can almost feel like tug of war, right? Like where it's like, I want my independence, but I also want connectivity. How do I work towards interconnectivity while also maintaining my own sense of self? Like that's really a big part of this, I think, for you all sixes, this journey for the next 6 months to a year, is really figuring out your place in the world, your sense of self, your, strengthening your self-awareness to the point where you're not allowing yourself to be taken advantage of. You're setting healthy, you're maintaining healthy behaviors, or stepping more into those healthy behaviors where if you can't do it, you're going to say no. And if somebody doesn't respect that, then that's a bigger conversation that you are willing to have. But that you're also not setting up walls where other people can't get through. And that you're asking for what it is that you need in the form of support or collaboration so that you can thrive as you help others to thrive. A lot of sort of nuanced, just a lot of energy you're working with over this next 6 months to a year. But it really does feel empowering for you, or more empowering, as well as empowering for the connections that you show up for, and how you show up to those connections. That's really what's kind of under the microscope with this eclipse, is how are you showing up to yourself, and then how are you showing up to connections, relationships, people, and where does it need some modification? Where is it that, because if you think about the sun being eclipsed out, there's a part of the sun it's losing its vibrancy, its vitality. So where in relationships are you doing that to yourself? in the way that you participate, in the way that you show up. And then, of course, with an eclipse, the sun eventually comes back out and is full force, shining. And so I do think that there's over the next 6 months to a year, you are the sun. And there may be a period where it feels like you're being eclipsed out, but you will come back full force, fully empowered and standing in your power and showing up to connections in a very healthy way. You, of course, have the final say, and it's going to be your decisions and choices that ultimately determine your experience. But you have the potential over the next 6 months to a year to really step into your own and really sort of be very conscious of how you're showing up to connections and what feels good and what doesn't feel good. What do you need to modify and what's working, right? And how can we enhance that or build upon that? But for those of you who have felt isolated or like you're kind of alone or you don't feel like you can really connect with people, I do think that you'll probably see your pack come in. And I don't think it's going to be people that you need to search for. I think they'll find you. But you have to be open to them. And no matter how many times you may have been burnt in the past, you need to be open to allowing them to come in with a fresh, clean slate, right? And show you who they are and what they have to contribute. And then you decide how it is that you're going to show up to these connections. And in the goal of like the solar eclipse and this 1 and 2 energy are to do that from a place of empowerment for self and those connections. So big energy, 6s, big energy. And you could definitely see, this could definitely be a period of time where you see soul contracts come in, people with, who are going to have a greater impact in your life, and who are potentially going to be around for a while. Because, eclipses usually start some kind of larger storyline. And so I think you will see the characters present themselves for this new chapter. Your job is to say yes to them and to allow them to come in to support you or show up in whatever way the contract between your soul and theirs is written, which you'll only figure out as you continue to move through the experience with those people. So beautiful energy here. Like really at the core of this is incredibly beautiful and very empowering for self and your connections. You just have to kind of be vulnerable and be open for it and see how it unfolds. Yeah. So, all right. Take care, 6s. I hope it's a beautiful eclipse. Bye for now.